Hey, what is up guys, it is RB and Hardware with a brand new video. Today I want to show you guys my latest $1,000 liquid cooled PC featuring a RTX 3060 graphics card and Ryzen 5 5600X CPU. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys step by step how to put together this PC build in 2021, showing you guys all parts I'm using before booting the system up, testing out the gaming performance, and if you follow my steps throughout this video, you should be able to see these numbers in your favorite game with this PC. Now we'll be detailing several of the games and we're gonna look at that after we completed the PC build. Now all PC components you see in the video are linked up in the video description. Now before we get started with the PC build, hey, my name is Robin and on this channel you'll find PC build guides where I'm using both new and used PC components, testing out the gaming performance and helping you figure out what PC parts to pick for your next gaming PC. And so if that is something you're interested in, smash the like button down below and hit the subscribe button and bell icon. Alright, so as always, let's kick things off by installing the RAM, the CPU and storage into our motherboard. And this here is Asus latest B550 motherboard creation. There's not much else to say here other than you're getting everything you need here, such as lots of USB ports, as well as some great VRMs and heatsink in, sleek black matte finish. And with support for Ryzen 5000 out of the box, you don't have to worry about messing with BIOS updates to get things up and going. With any B550 board, you're already good to go. Now before installing the CPU guys, we're gonna get rid of these two retention clips, so let's go ahead and do that first. Now we're going to pair the B550 with the Ryzen 5 5600X coming in at $299. Now this is a 6-core and 12-thread CPU with a 3.7 GHz base clock and a boost clock of 4.6. Taking a quick look at the 5600X gaming performance, we can see that the $299 processor is doing great versus the competition, making the 6-core CPU a solid pick for today's monster PC build. Now to install the CPU, all we need to do is to line up this triangle located on the lower left side of the CPU with this triangle on the motherboard socket, pull back the retention arm, line up the triangles and simply drop the CPU in the socket and return the metal arm back down again. Next up, we're going to install a RAM kit, and this is from G-Skill and this is the Trident CRGP. Now 3200 MHz is usually what I recommend for most gamers, as it generally offers great price to performance ratio, and that is what we are testing out today. Now to get optimal performance out of the RAM sticks, we want to put them in DIMM slot 2 and 4. So open up these latches and they can only go in one way, and that's it. Now we are almost ready to install a motherboard in our case, but before we do that, let's install our storage. Now this is the A2000 from Kingston. Keep in mind though guys, you can always supplement this with a hard drive later on if you are running short. Now the motherboard can carry up to 2 M.2 slots in total. We find one of the 2 slots right here, so what we need to do is to get rid of this heat shield first. And then we can slide in the A2000 in with a 45-degree angle just like so, and then we can go ahead and secure it down. And with that done guys, now we can go ahead and move our motherboard assembly if you like and install it in our case. And in this video I'm gonna go with the Lian Li Long Cool 2, and this is a $99 mid-tower with not just one but two side tempered glass panels. We find three included 120mm fans, as well as a built-in RGB controller, creating these two nice looking RGB strips that we can address via the buttons at the front. Now, in order to get into the interior, we first need to flip down this shroud, and then we can get a hold of the side glass panel. Simply pull it straight up to pop it out of its hinges, and now we can go ahead and move our whole assembly and install it. And we're gonna use the screws that comes provided by Lee. And with the board installed, before we move on to power supply and graphics, now is a good time to connect the chassis cables that takes care of the front audio and USB, as well as the power button and RGB. Let's start with USB 3. And this is what this cable looks like. The connector is located on the mid-right side of the motherboard. Moving on to front audio, and this cable goes to the left side corner. Lastly, we have the front panel connector, and you find this on the lower right side. Alright guys, with that done, let's go ahead and install our power supply, and for today's build I chose the Corsair CV 550W unit with 80+ bronze efficiency certification, and make sure that the fan is facing downwards. Then gently slide it into place and secure it. Make sure to braid the cables outside of the case so that they don't get stuffed in. Now we're just gonna do a couple of cables and wiring before installing our graphics. First up, we got this 24-pin power, and this is for our motherboard, and this one goes to a connector that we find on the mid-right side. Next up, we got this 8-pin power for our CPU, and this one goes all the way up to the top left side corner. Lastly, we have this SATA power connector, and this one needs to be connected to the RGB and PWM hub. And with that done guys, let's finish up with the CPU cooler. And for today's build, as I mentioned earlier, I am picking a liquid cooler, and this one is coming from Arctic. This is their Freezer Liquid 240, coming in at $100. Now for clearance purposes, I recommend connecting the CPU fan header before installing the radiator. We then install the radiator at the top, before securing the pump on the CPU. To verify that the pump is correctly secured, make sure that all 4 screw holes on the backplate have a screw in it. And this is what it should look like. Now it is finally time to install our graphics card guys, and for today's build we find GeForce RTX 3060 GPU. This model is coming from MSI. This is the Gaming X. It got 2 fans, some RGB, and a nice looking backplate. Based on the new Ampere architecture, the 3060 offers solid 4K gaming and great 1440p performance. Now, as you guys know, prices on GPUs are unfortunately upside down right now. There is some hopes though that the situation is gonna get better as we move closer to the summer. Anyway, plug in the graphics card and take these 2 dual PCIe cables and plug it into our graphics card just like so. And what is left to do is to flip the case around, whack on the tempered glass side panel, and with that done we have completed our $1,073 budget gaming PC build. Let's fire up some games and let's take a look at what the PC performs like. Alright, so on your screen guys, we are looking at the performance numbers that I gathered from today's PC build, and I ended up running 18 or 19 games in both 1440p and 4K resolution, with graphics details set to very high and medium to low, and as can be seen, yeah, at least for the most part we are able to reach 60 FPS. But let's take a look at a few of the games at a deeper level, and first up we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Let's start having a look at 1440p, where I put everything at epic. This gives us an average frame rate of 75 FPS with 1% low at 55 FPS. Heading over to 4K medium settings results in about 108 FPS. Next up is Call of Duty Warzone. Let's start with 1440p, where I went all in, and so ray tracing turned on and DLSS is set to performance. This gives us 122 FPS. Moving on to 4K, looking at the same settings, we saw 74 FPS. Let's move on to Days Gone. At 1440p highest settings, you can expect about 72 FPS with 45 FPS at 1% low. At 4K resolution, I recommend dropping the settings down to medium, and that will have you sitting at 55 FPS with 1% low at 40. Next up we have Death Stranding, starting at 1440p high settings and DLSS set to balance. And with these settings we are able to get 104 FPS. At 4K we saw 64 FPS on average, again using high settings. Red Dead Redemption 2 is another popular and demanding game that I've seen a few of you guys been suggesting, and so let's take a look at that. Starting with 1440p, here I'm going all in, and this results in about 59 FPS. At 4K, you do have to drop the settings quite significantly, and here we are looking at a mix between medium to low, and this results in an average of 47 FPS. Again guys, all PC components we just looked at can be found in the video description below. Also, we now have an official Discord server for the channel, and if you want to become a part of the community, ask questions or just hang out with any of the awesome people on the channel, like-minded people that like to build gaming PCs, please go ahead and join the Discord server today. Link can be found down below. Now watch either of these two videos, and I will see you guys in the next video.